Hello adventurers! I'm Gray, and welcome to a really interesting Hytale blog update, in my opinion. And this one's about block tech, which is how blocks connect with each other in the world. And this one's really interesting because the topics they cover, as someone who plays Minecraft a lot, it looks like they're taking things that Minecraft did and bragging about how they do it a little bit better in Hytale. I know that Hypixel Studios, specifically from Chris Thurston, the publishing lead, has stated that they want Hytale to eventually be compared less with Minecraft in the future, but I'm still going to be making a lot of Minecraft references, and they understand that too, because the games are just so similar, and it'll make it really easy to comprehend the differences here. Now, as they say, if you've watched the Hytale announcement trailer, you'll have seen plenty of things, the landscapes, the prefabs, built with blocks, because this is a block game in the block genre, as Hypixel Studios states, and they're trying to improve and innovate in the block genre. So they want to talk about how the blocks are unique, different from other games that have done this type of thing, starting with Rgb Tints. So this is an extreme example, and it kind of reminds me of the Windows logo actually, except just the green and the blue are sort of swapped sides of each other. But if those were just swapped around, I just picture Windows going on here. But basically, you can change the RGB tint of any block. And the way I see this most likely happening is the example they show down here, where it's within a biome or transitioning from biome to biome, the grass just changes color or the water changes tint. And Minecraft does something similar to this. Swamp water is more green, for example, whereas ocean water is more blue, and lake water is probably the bluest. I'm sure map creators can use this type of thing too, for making all sorts of different tinted blocks in all sorts of environments, and this looks way more extreme than anything Minecraft had, because Minecraft's tinting was only for biomes and for shifting the land around. You can't actually paint your grass whatever color you want. What I'm interested in is, will there be paints in the game, and will you be able to color like your walls or your ground into whatever color you want? Because that would be really cool. That means you can make anything yourself whatever color you want while still keeping the original texture. Down here it kind of gives a mystical feel, but whenever the forest starts turning blue, and you can see that even the leaves on the trees are starting to turn a little bit blue, or very blue I should say, which looks a little bit weird whenever they're right next to the green trees over there, but I'm sure it'll be a lot more natural in the real thing, and it must signify some sort of different environment once you go into a different tinted area. So next we have transition textures, which break up the lines between different blocks and make it have a more natural feel when you're transitioning between different types of blocks. For example, here there's grass, sand, and gravel on the ground that kind of mix with each other and form a little jagged edge. Which the grass, I assume this is kind of like the grass overflowing over the sand, kind of like in real life the grass would overhang over it, whereas the gravel is sort of a rocky edge because gravel is rocks. And that's a nice little house they have in the background too. That's a nice little build. But this is just part of a common theme that they have going on here, which is they're trying to break up the cubic nature of their game using all sorts of extra effects, transitions, interesting visual designs. And this is a very different mentality from what Minecraft creator Notch had when he created Minecraft. Because I recall, years ago, there was lots of argument and debating, and he didn't even want to add slabs or stairs to Minecraft, because he thought of Minecraft as a purely cubic game. He wanted only cubes, and he thought that things like stairs and half slabs were too non-cubic. They were cutting it apart too much and making it not a square. On the other hand, Hypixel Studios seems to be going for the cubic aesthetic in general, but also adding a lot more unique, visually distinct designs to break up that cubic nature and not make everything look the same as each other. So for another continuing theme of creativity in this game, they talk more about Hytale Model Maker and how much of an impact it can have on just your adventure mode playthrough of the game. Even with something as simple as ore spawns. You can see here that they're kind of sticking out of these rocks. So they talk about how there's 3 types of blocks in Hytale. There's the basic block, which is just a cube with all 6 sides having a basic texture on it. And this is similar to any sort of game like Minecraft where you just have textures on all the sides of different blocks and building pieces. They also have blocks that use models and textures defined in Hytale Model Maker, and this can lead to all sorts of unique looking designs. They're not necessarily cubic, and they can also be doing all sorts of textures and patterns and can even glow, kind of like these ores. And finally, they have the third hybrid design of blocks, which combine parts of both of the previous types. For example, you can have ore with several types of blocks that it's sticking out of. So you could have ores coming out of a sandstone block or a stone block or something like that, the same ores, and it would still work well because it's combining two different things together. So here the ores made in Model Maker are put on top of the basic stone blocks to show them emerging from the stone, along with having a nice little glimmer effect with a moving texture that makes it really stand out. So sometimes in Minecraft when you're walking by, you can kind of miss the iron or different ores because they're just attached to a block and hard to see. This should make it very clear to see where an ore is so you can grab it and just get what you need. And looking through here, I see two types of ores, I believe. There is this brownish ore at the bottom right, which you won't be able to see my mouse, but it looks like it's either copper or gold or bronze, something like that. Could even be iron, but I don't think they're going to go for brown for iron in this game. They might be, but I don't think they're going to do that. And if you look further up into the darker part of the cave, you can see another type of ore which looks more silvery. I'm not sure what that could be. Could be something like silver, could be quartz, could be tin, could be iron also. There's all sorts of things it could be. They could make it a gemstone like quartz or something, but I'm not quite sure about that. And some other visual tricks I see here is there is stalactites coming off the ceiling, which look really interesting. I like how they're trying to spice up caves rather than making them look all blocky. You have things that would be in caves, like stalactites and some little cave plants, probably stalagmites also. Heck, if you look right underneath the iron, which I can't show you my mouse right now, but you can kind of see a block, but kind of a quarter way, it goes down into another block. So it's not like a full block connected to each other. I'm wondering how you would build that, because it's an interesting design, and I'm sure you can climb that and everything, but I'm wondering how that works with the way the blocks connect with each other. Seems really interesting to find out. Here we have Submersible Blocks, which is another thing that Minecraft didn't have for the longest time until very recently. I believe 1.13 Update Aquatic, where they added the ability for blocks to be filled with water once they're underwater. For example, fence posts in Minecraft used to just be placed in the water and they'd form an air pocket around it. And it would look really weird, but you could use it for air. Like you'd walk into it and you'd get air from it. Now you place a fence block in a water source block and it'll submerge it and you won't get any air out of it. You also can't place torches underwater anymore like you used to be able to in Minecraft. And I believe ladders too are submerged in Minecraft now. Now this seems to be doing a similar thing, showing off the interactions between blocks, such as having plants and chests underwater. But it seems to be taking it a bit further than something like Minecraft does, because not only will there be more blocks that it can work on, for example, you open a chest in the water, and that open chest is filled up with water. However, any block that you want will be able to be submergible just by editing something in the configuration file for the block. So if you're someone who makes texture packs or just wants to modify the game a little bit and add some more depth, literally, then you can do that with the configuration files. For example, you can use fences in a river to block NPCs, forming sort of like a dam in the river, so water can still go through, but NPCs can't. It'll kind of be like a sift. Now here we have a tree, truly the most grand and beautiful of all living creatures. Let us marvel in its presence. Though I have to admit, that is a nice looking tree, even though we've seen a lot of them. So, they use trees to talk about how they can use the Hytale Model Maker to create all sorts of diverse environments and blocks, things like that. So if you look at these leaf blocks right here, you can kind of tell they don't really look cubic per se. And they also have a variety of colors, such as the yellow ones that represent sort of fall leaves. So if you come down here, we'll see the Model Maker view of these leaves. So if you look here, you can tell it's not really a cubic texture. It's actually a flat texture, just placed multiple times within a cubic environment. For example, if we zoom in on the shape on the right, you can see that there's 3 flat textures placed by each other, one horizontal, one vertical on the x-axis, one vertical on the y-axis. And it forms a 3D looking effect where it doesn't look like a cube, but it looks sort of fluffy. And this is just one example of what leaves can be, because rather than just having it like this, they actually rotate the leaf block every time in a random angle, in a random direction, to give it more randomness, more depth, and more interesting visual appearance. Now here's something I wanted in Minecraft for the longest amount of time, and it's still not there unless you have a shader pack or a sort of mod pack. And that is Ambient Animations, or basically, from what I call it, animated grass. Because here, you can see that the grass is waving in the wind. But not only that, but it also waves as you walk through it. So as you see, this, I assume Steve walking through the grass here, is moving the grass to the side a little bit as they walk through, which is a really nice effect that gives you more immersion in the world. I'm guessing that this also works with animals that walk through, and all sorts of other things interacting, and there will be a lot more interactions and animations like this in the real game. But one other thing I wanted to point out is, if you zoom in on this guy right here, let me zoom it in a little bit, you can see that as he walks through, he stops, and then crouch. This is the first time I've seen the crouch animation in Hytale, and I know everything is subject to change, but that means that Hytale is going to have a crouch thing, kind of like Minecraft has, I assume. And I'm guessing it'll also keep you from falling off the edge of ledges whenever you're using that. There's only 2 more topics to talk about, starting with particle effects. So Minecraft has particle effects, and I don't know how this one's going to improve on it, but it does look pretty nice. So you can see here that every block you break has a different effect that comes out of it that's unique to that block. So the stone kind of knocks stones out. The gravel or sandstone, whatever that is, knocks a little bit of rocks around. The wood has bark flying off. The sand just turns to dust. Even the mushroom, the glowing mushroom that they hit, kind of turns into a glowing dust. And this is in a sort of creative mode, I'm guessing, because they're one-shotting everything that they hit, which they say won't be in the real game, is just for a demonstration, at least in survival mode. And also the punch animation they're doing here, where it just swings across the screen, is not final, and I'm guessing that'll change since I'm not a huge fan of it just swinging across the screen like that. But they talk about how the particles work and how they're triggered, things like that, and they're related to the block types. So they have particle block event sets, which this is getting a bit technical, but basically they link the particles to the blocks, and you could customize them. You can define a different particle for different blocks and different events happening, and it's all going to be customizable, so you can do all sorts of things with it. So there are many different events you can do this with. For example, walking or running across a block can cause a particle effect, or interacting with them by punching them, or breaking them, or placing them down for building. Heck, even jumping into water, or any type of interaction you do, could cause a particle effect. And you can even customize the tints of the particles, and I assume also the amounts and things like that, with every event that you have interacting with them. For example, you could have a stone block that has like water inside of it, and when you break the stone block, you could see like water effects flying out, and that could add some nice immersion to the game, so that seems like another really interesting way to customize things. Finally, we have interactions and animation states, which the example they use here is this wooden double door that they have in this little cottage. And you can see here that when the double door is opened, it doesn't just snap open like Minecraft does, where you right click on it and it just goes instantly. It has a slick animation that makes it feel more natural, makes you feel like you're actually there, like it's actually real, and the 2 doors open at the same time. And the way they do this is that they change the underlying block, the door block, to be an opened door block. So then they have an animation that plays on the block's model that causes it to move in a natural looking way. And they use a similar thing for other things like trapdoors, chests, levers, lanterns, anything with an animation. And I assume we're going to be able to add our own animations, our own block interactions. We're using mods, using the Hytale model maker, things like that. And it should be really easy to create custom blocks and things like that. So these doors kind of recognize each other, I guess, and they're interacting with each other to form that double door, which is really interesting. And that's an example of custom functionality which they're going to be working on and giving us the access to. So there's a couple final little things I want to talk about that I noticed in some of these clips. For example, here when talking about the particle effects, you can see a sort of shed in the background, kind of like a logging shed, and it has a hay looking roof. So I'm guessing you'll be able to get hay somehow, maybe from wheat, and potentially make a nice looking thatch roof out of it. And it doesn't look block shaped, it's kind of flat, so I'm assuming it's actually a roof block or something along those lines, that you can actually make it sort of slanted and into a nice looking roof. The most interesting clip of all though is this one right here, this one about the animation states. Because whenever it goes inside, just even starting at the very beginning, you can see all sorts of things on it. And I know a lot of this was in the trailer too, but I want to point out a couple of things. So it looks like you'll be able to make a lamp. And I'm not sure if this whole thing is going to be one thing you can craft and place down. That's what I'm guessing, because it looks like it would be kind of difficult to place all this stuff. But it would be cool if you could make it like micro blocks, if you know that mod, where you can craft all sorts of miniature blocks in Minecraft. Like kind of like that, where you just add a pole on top of a pole and then add a board and then add the lamp. That'd make it very customizable. Over here you have a sort of stump on the ground, which it's not just like wood lying on the ground. There's like a little bit of branches coming off the side too, which I'm wondering if there's going to be a special block for that, or if that's just another thing that they added onto it manually. There's a nice looking candle here, and I'm curious if there will be torches like they have in Minecraft for exploring caves, or if we're just going to have candles that we hold in our hand when we go exploring. Like, how's that going to work? How's lighting going to work? So let's get a bit closer to the house here, and you can see that the roof is made up of logs that are surrounded by more logs, which creates a 3D effect. But once again, I need to know how this building works. I want another Hytale blog post telling me how all this building works with these miniature blocks. Like, they have some in the corners of the roof too that are like 1/4 the size of a normal block, which is interesting. Once we start to get inside, we can see that there's kind of a sawmill, which that looks really cool. I'm wondering if that's going to be how blocks are chopped up so that you could have a smaller version to place on walls for decorations. For example, those logs that were on the roof of the house that were surrounded by other logs, I feel like those miniature ones could have been just chopped up by this and placed on there for a 3D effect. We can see a nice looking fireplace here, which is already better than Minecraft because the house isn't on fire, so that's always a good sign. There's also a chair, which I'm guessing we'll be able to sit on. The last thing I want to point out is this bookcase right here on the right side of this door, because it looks like they placed these books actually within these cabinets on the bookshelf, within these sections. And I'm wondering if that means that this is a specific bookshelf block. Is it something that has an inventory and you put books in, and it kind of just randomizes them, makes them lean on each other? Or if they built this manually, and books are also just a physical thing that you can place down and order however you want. I'm guessing that this whole thing is a specific bookcase block that you place down as furniture. Though we'll have to learn more about how this furniture and how block placing works before we'll know for certain. And I think that's all for now. I've covered everything that I've noticed in this blog post. I'm sure there's some things I missed, and you guys can do your own exploring of your own to find any hidden details, and you can look at this blog post. It'll be in the description below. But that's basically all for now. I hope you all enjoyed learning more about Hytale with me, and I hope to see you all on the next adventure.